Hey everybody, my name is Mike. I am not for Coltrane. Welcome to your Coltrane Tuesdays for this, the 18th day of February, the second month of the 2025th year of our shared common era. I'm actually with you live this time. Maybe not next week. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. We are continuing with our Black History Month spotlight on influential black artists. And of course, we will also play the Not for Coltrane Stump the Band game. Oh, hey, Margot's here. Thank you so much, Margot, for letting me know that the stream is functioning as expected. That is always the hope, and it's not always guaranteed, but it's always the hope. And so I'm grateful for you letting me know that that is in fact happening at the moment. So first, let me say how we're going to play the Not for Coltrane Stump the Band game for those who might be unfamiliar. People will give me song requests, and I will have to play them regardless of whether I know them. So people might request a song that I do in fact happen to know, in which case I'll just have to try to remember how to play it, because it'll probably have been a little bit. People might request a song that I sort of know, that I'm familiar with, but that maybe I've never tried to play before, in which case I will have to try to figure out how to play something like it here in front of everyone. Perhaps the requested song will be one that I do not recognize at all, in which case I will have to make up a brand new song right here on the spot with the same name as the song that was requested, thereby technically satisfying the requirement. That is how we play the Not for Coltrane Stump the Band game, and I just about have my neckwear situated here. We're getting close. We're getting close. Today we are going back to the 1930s with our featured performer, Robert Johnson. Robert Johnson, the legendary, I think it's fair to say legendary, Delta blues guitar player and singer, bluesman, hugely influential on the course of not just blues music but also rock and roll music. And his recordings are pretty amazing in and of themselves, and also they went on to have this tremendous storied afterlife in the way that they influenced so many amazing and very prominent musicians quite a few years later. So we're going to get started with yes. Thank you for noticing the suspenders. Since we're going back to 1936, I thought we would do a little cosplay here. So this is the guitar I have not been using so much because the electronics are a little messed up, but it means that I can change the tuning on it. So this is at the moment it's open E, but if with capo off it's open D. A guitar doesn't usually sound this nice when you strum all of the strings like that. But that is because this uses a slide. So for the slide guitar, I'm very nervous in case you can't tell. This is one of my favorite Robert Johnson songs. Robert Johnson performed, I should say, a lot of songs that you've heard other people do. Songs like Come On In My Kitchen, Crossroad Blues, of course, or Crossroad. I believe I'll Dust My Broom. I'm blanking on some of the other famous ones. But this is, Sweet Home Chicago, of course, Sweet Home Chicago. But this song is called Preachin' Blues, parentheses, Up Jump the Devil. And it talks a lot about what the blues is, and some wonderful descriptions of what the blues is. And I'm going to try it's at the very, very edge of my abilities as a guitarist, and certainly I'm not much of a slide guitar player, but we're going to see how this goes. We're aspiring to not terrible. Preachin' Blues, Up Jump the Devil, Robert Johnson, here we go. like a man. Give me your right hand. Down. Drive along, poor Bob. Can't make it turn you around. The blues, low down, shake and chill. Tell now. Slow down, shake and chill. Ain't never had one. Hope you never will. Making old heart disease. Blues, old aching heart disease. Like consumption, killing me by degrees. Stay out there all day. My attempt at preaching blues up jump the devil by Robert Johnson. Not nearly as polished as the original, but perhaps we have met our standard of not terrible. The Blues Face, part 1 amazement, 1 part disgust. yeah, that's about right. Thank you so much, Mark, for joining us as well. Stump the Band. As long as we're in a blues mood, how about Talking Candy Bar Blues? I don't know if they wrote it, but it was on a Peter, Paul, and Mary album from my youth. All right, well, I do like the idea of sticking with some blues. I think that is what we should do for today. Ordinarily, I have a rule with the Not for Coltrane Stump the Band game that I can't just do a blues. The reason being that blues is probably the easiest, certainly one of the easiest, if not the easiest, song formats to improvise in. And so if I didn't have that rule, we would just have blues every week when I was improvising a song. But I think given our Robert Johnson tribute today, that is absolutely where we should start. So let me talk just a few more moments about Robert Johnson. Robert Johnson, a very short, a brief but extremely influential music career. Did just a couple of recording sessions, I believe, in a hotel room, probably in Memphis, Tennessee, in like 36 and 37, 1936, 1937. The recordings, he had a bit of a hit with one of his songs called Terraplane Blues, I believe it was. And in fact, there was a promoter who was putting together a showcase at Carnegie Hall, I believe, who was trying to track down Robert Johnson. It turned out he had already died. Some of the stories about him, that he was really into music as a very young man, but wasn't very good. And then he went away. When he came back, he was amazing. Everyone agreed that he was amazing, and he was in demand for playing juke joints and playing on street corners and all sorts of stuff. And apparently also to go in and do some recording. The popular story was that he went down to the crossroads and sold his soul to the devil in exchange for this mastery of the guitar. Now, I don't know how much of that how much of that story he helped propagate in his lifetime. Because of his lifetime being so short, and obviously being an itinerant singer, blues man in the 30s, he was not one of society's elites. Let's say he was not someone that there was a whole lot of record keeping going on to try to keep track of him for posterity at that time, and the stories that he probably helped propagate, would have led to some of the mystique and things going on in terms of him being in demand. There's also a story that "Oh Hell on My Trail," I should say. It's another wonderful song of Robert Johnson's. Robert Johnson, in terms of his musical style and his lyrics, not the most original. There's lots that he was drawing on in the Mississippi Delta of other blues singers and other songs that were going around. So it's very much part of the folk process or the blues process in terms of him drawing on other lyrics. But apparently just really very innovative in his guitar technique, in his finger picking technique. I figured out how to basically use the pick with it, but he was not using a pick. He had multiple things going on with different fingers on his picking hand, as well as stuff going on with his fretting hand. And in fact, one of the first guitar solos where he's continuing to play the bass line and also playing a lead part simultaneously. And that was something that blew the mind of a lot of people when they were hearing his records many, many years later, as an inspiration for people like Keith Richards, Eric Clapton. I'll read some of the quotes here from people talking about Robert Johnson. Among them, let's see here. This is on the RobertJohnsonBluesFoundation.org website. Keb Moe says, "Robert Johnson is the truth, and the truth stands the test of time." Jimmy Page of Led Zeppelin says, "The music of Robert Johnson has inspired a million riffs. The myth of Robert Johnson has inspired a million dreams." Let's see. Let's look at who else here. Derek Truck says, "Any musician worth his salt playing any form of rock and roll knows that all roads lead back to the Mississippi Delta, and Robert Johnson is one of those heavyweights from the Delta Blues. He carries the blues and rock and roll myths as well as anyone else." Sheryl Crow says, "All things considered, Robert Johnson is possibly the most complete one-man musical force we ever had." And also, let's see, Kenny Wayne Shepherd, "To say that Robert Johnson made an impact on the music world is as big an understatement as anyone could ever make. He's the most influential blues artist ever." Keith Richards says of the Rolling Stones, of course, "Robert Johnson was like an orchestra all by himself. Some of his best stuff is almost Bach-like in its construction, a brilliant burst of inspiration." Keith Richards also said, and I'm going to pull this other quote up here, "You want to know how good the blues can get? Well, this is it." And Eric Clapton also chimed in saying that in addition to his guitar playing, the way that the vocals come through on these recordings is really just haunting. He says Eric Clapton called it the most powerful cry that I think you can find in the human voice. The story was that when he was making these recordings in a hotel room, he faced the corner. Apparently because he was shy, but perhaps not because he was shy, but because he knew that the microphone in that space there, in making his own sort of impromptu recording booth, that was going to help capture some of the nuances. And that, in fact, some of the stuff he was doing was very sort of subtle asides. One of the things that comes through in this recording of Preaching Blues, Up Jump the Devil, he has this call and response with himself, almost as though he's someone from the crowd who is calling back to him and saying, "You're going to talk about it? We just preach it now." And then he goes on singing himself. He had some sort of a knack for what he was doing in terms of the recording that really comes through quite powerfully. And then his death, just a couple years later. And of course, there are all sorts of stories about that as well. One of the popular versions is that he was poisoned by the husband of a married woman with whom he was flirting. Probably the most popular version of the myth, but also the possibility of syphilis, or really who knows. And there are only about 3 photographs in existence of this gentleman who went on to be so hugely influential. His records were reissued at a time when people like Eric Clapton, people like Jimmy Page, people like Keith Richards were getting interested in doing some music, and they heard these records and said, "Oh my word, this is absolutely what I need to do." And that went to influence, of course, so much of the rock and roll movement of the British invasion, because these records had come out at a time when those people were listening to it. So, amazing performer. Highly recommend you look up the music of Robert Johnson. Like I say, if you've heard almost any blues musician, you've heard them do at least a couple Robert Johnson songs. Kind-Hearted Woman Blues is another one of his. So definitely check that out. It sounds like it's recorded in the 30s. There's no question it sounds like it's recorded in the 30s, but if you sort of step back and get into that mindset, you can hear a lot of what's going on. There's so much going on with the guitar. There's so much going on with the vocals. Yes, so there you go. Robert Johnson, look him up. Find out more about him if you are not already familiar. All right, so Mark says, in terms of the blues face, it's actually one part surprise and one part disgust. What would a candy bar talk about? It's actually the singer talking about an incident that involves the leftover half of candy bar and the child he offers it to. All right, so the song that we're going to do, well, let me recap to get back to where we're going to be in terms of the Not for Coltrane Stump the Band game. Margot, in fact, has already given me a song request. And I am going to have to improvise something because I'm not super familiar with the song that was requested. But here's how it works. People give me a song request, and I have to respond to it regardless of whether I know the song, just like this case. So perhaps the song will be one that I know. If that had been the case, I would just have to try to remember how the song goes. Perhaps the song would be one that I'm kind of familiar with, in which case I would then have to try to figure out how to play that song here in front of everyone. Perhaps the song would be one that I'm not familiar with at all, in which case I have to make up a brand new song right here on the spot with the same name as the song that was requested, thereby technically satisfying the requirement. That is how we play the Not for Coltrane Stump the Band game. So we are going to play a blues song. We're going to play it in the key of G because that's an easy one to go with. Let's see, one part surprise, one part disgust. Let's go back to the name of the song. The name of the song was Talking Candy Bar Blues. Talking Candy Bar Blues. So a talking blues is a little bit different from a straight 12-bar blues, but I'm going to do this more as a well, maybe we'll do an interlude where there's some talking blues. Let's see, that looks like the G harp. Let's see what we got here. If we get the C harp, we'll do some blues in G. There we are. And I'll grab the capo here. Talking Candy Bar Blues. Let's see here. Talking Candy Bar Blues. And the original is a singer talking about an incident that involves a leftover half of a candy bar. one of the things that I don't know how much of it can be credited exclusively to Robert Johnson, but certainly something that he helped popularize was sort of a walking bass line going. While the blues are going on, rather than just staying on. So I'm going to do a little bit of that. It is one of my standard blues approaches. Talking candy bar blues. Let's see. So, with a straight 12-bar blues, 12-bar blues meaning there are 12 measures in each verse, and the first line of the blues is repeated in the 12-bar blues anyway. Yeah, the first line you repeat the first line, and then you have a third line which is rhymes with the first two. So the idea being, because it is repeated, it gives you more time to come up with or to improvise a rhyme for the third line. So let's see, but since I have the moment, since here, Talking Candy Bar Blues, Talking Candy Bar Blues. All right, Talking Candy Bar Blues. We're just gonna see where this goes. Eyes up this morning, singing the Talking Candy Bar Blues. Eyes up this morning, singing the Talking Candy Bar Blues. Talking candy bar blues, looking around for my shoes. See, I had a half a candy bar sitting out from the night before. I had just half a candy bar sitting out from the night before. Then the candy bar started talking, and it started headed for the door. I said, what is wrong with me? Candy bar can walk away. I said, what is wrong with me? There's no way the candy bar can just walk away. I don't know what I had to eat or drink, but now something's wrong with my mind today. Candy bar said, no man, you got to understand me. I've got to find a way to get through my life. Don't you understand me? Got to find a way to get through my life. 'Cause you ate half of me. Now I got to go find myself a wife. Said, don't you know, a candy bar can't talk to me. I said, I think I ought to know, there's no way a candy bar can talk to me. I think what's happening here, someone a trick on me. And I started hearing laughing, giggles from around the band. I started hearing laughing, someone's giggling from around the band. Behind the furniture, I can hear them, I can hear them then. He was this little kid who's wanted to take the candy bar. Yeah, this little kid trying to make me think I had a talking candy bar. I don't know what made him think he was gonna get all that far. But then I said, what is there a little kid doing in my apartment? I don't understand what you're doing here. Why is there a little kid in my apartment? I don't know what you're doing here. I reached out and grabbed him, pulled him up by the ear. He said, sorry, mister, the door was open, you see. The door was open, mister. The door was open, you see. I saw the candy bar there and I thought it looked mighty good to me. Turned out we just want to share that candy bar. Yeah, we decided we should just share that candy bar. Good thing it was a king size, or else we wouldn't have gotten very far. There you go. That is my version of a talking candy bar blues. Thanks very much to Margot for that request. I can do a talking candy bar if you prefer. Yeah, so we had all of those things. We had half a candy bar. We had a talking. We had a kid ending up with part of the candy bar, and not the most coherent lyrics I've ever come up with, but not the worst either. Not terrible is the standard to which we aspire here on the Coltrane Tuesdays program. Great improvised story. Mark says, bite me. Yes, that would be an appropriate thing for a candy bar to say. So again, thanks to Mark and Margot and anyone else who might be watching live with us now. Thanks to anyone who's watching this in the future. Next week it will be another time-shifted episode as we wrap up this series of Black History Month. You will note, so we've looked at Curtis Mayfield, we've looked at Marvin Gaye, we've looked at Robert Johnson. We haven't looked at any women, which is really a travesty because there are so many amazing female black artists. So we're definitely going to get one of those in under the wire. And then, maybe in the future, we'll continue with this in future Februaries. Let me know some of your favorite black artists. We can wrap those into next year's series of tributes. But for next week, we'll have one more in this series before we move on to whatever March theme is going to be. Perhaps that will be the one with the looping that we had talked about doing for February, which ended up being postponed. But we'll see. So again, thanks to everyone who's watching. Thanks to everyone who's going to be checking their calendar and tuning in next week for the time-shifted episode. Thanks to everyone who hits the like button, hits the subscribe button, and the little bell so you get the notifications. Thanks for people who check out the tip jar, people who hit the share button and let other people know about this particular program and how it happens on Tuesdays. Until the next time I'm here in this space talking to you, please take care of yourselves, take care of each other. My name is Mike. I am not for Coltrane. Talk to you real soon.